The mission of the Wildlife Center is to care for sick, injured, and orphaned native wildlife. 65% of what we take in are birds. So the other 35% would be anything from orphaned squirrels, possums, to an elephant seal pup. So anything from, half a pound to 100 pounds.
So I've been here for going on 9 years now. October would make 9 years. I wanted to do something in an area that I felt was underserved. Wildlife, they don't get a lot of attention that the domestic animals get. We try to give them the level of care that they would normally get at a veterinary facility. And so the mornings are mostly rechecking all these animals that have been here for a few days. And then what happens is after that, we jump into things with the rehab side, doing that. Then we go on the hospital side and do rechecks, making sure all the animals that have been here for a while are still progressing as they should. And then we start doing our procedures in the afternoon, which could range from maybe just maybe 2 or 3 animals to some nights we might be here till maybe 10 or 11 o'clock at night doing surgeries on them. Do you describe how you want to get tennis? That's okay. We'll just knock them out. They're really slammed in. With the other owl, that one came in really emaciated, and we weren't sure what was wrong with it. We ran blood work, we ran some other tests, but it seemed to improve, and it started getting around better. It started acting more like an owl. It started being very alert and started getting bitey, and so we moved him outside the enclosure, and we thought that he had turned the corner. He would eat on his own. He actually would take live prey tests as well. And he would fly decently from perch to perch. But then every once in a while we go out to take a look at him, and he had this low crouch stance. He wouldn't stand normally. He'd kind of sit on what we call their hocks, where they kind of sit on what looks like their ankles. And so we brought him back in and we started him on anti-inflammatories again. We ran a bunch of tests. Tested for West Nile virus, we tested for psittacosis, we ran other kind of blood work, and they all came back negative. And so we weren't sure what was going on with him. But we started treating him supportively. He would still eat. We treated him with anti-inflammatories. Then it started acting much better, started getting really feisty. So we moved him outside, and he continued to do better. At first he didn't fly very well, but then after a few days, he's able to get to the top perches, and then you could see him flying back and forth at night when we forced him to fly. And so we tested him with feeding him live mice, and he was able to pass that as well. And so we released him back into the wild. I feel it's our responsibility. Because so many of these animals are getting injured because of human interactions, or whether it's intentional or not, trimming trees, or hit by cars, or sometimes malicious things, people shooting animals, or accidental things with fishing lines or things like that. But it's all, the majority is human interactions.
He was inside a box, and that is, I saw the box before anything else. So neighbor told me.
Just other, you have dogs?
No, I don't.
Okay. Yeah, just dogs, other skunks, coyotes, foxes, weasels.
Oh, really?
All those small mammals.
Oh, okay.
Did they have you fill out paperwork?
No, not
okay.
at all.
Okay, somebody will be right with you. So we don't keep the raccoons here on the premises because they sometimes they can cause they carry what's called Balis ascaris, which is the raccoon roundworm, and that limits what you can put in your enclosure sometimes, because if they have that and they shed it, then you put other animals in there, and while the raccoons might not get sick from Balis ascaris, it causes a neurologic disease in other animals, and so that wouldn't be good for other species that we put in there. And so we don't keep them here. They actually go to home care, who do the raccoons, they raise them from babies to adults, and they put them in enclosures that are just for the raccoons. And so we'll take them in, we'll do physical exams, we'll stabilize them, and get them hydrated, get them started to feed. And then but as soon as they can go to home care, we'll either take them to there, or home care will come to pick them up for their continued rehab. right now in-house we have over 300 animals. So we've definitely outgrown our facility. Every year we have to turn away different kinds of animals. It's just that we just don't have the enclosure space for them because we only have a limited amount of outside enclosures, and these animals need to go outside, and some of them need to be here until September or October. And so once we fill up our capacity for those animals, we just can't take anymore. And this year we filled up our coyote capacity at the end of April. That one came from Agora Animal Shelter. They brought her, and she was the last coyote of our pack that we had. And because she came in later than the others, she had to be quarantined separate from them because they carry different diseases that can spread. They carry on. We were treating her for those roundworms, making sure she didn't have any infectious diseases. And then about a little less than a week ago, she passed her quarantine, passed her second round of vaccines, and we put her in with another coyote from another group so that she wouldn't get used to people too much. And actually, we just did another fecal on her today, and she was negative, and so she's actually going to go out and join the other coyotes this afternoon. They bond pretty well, and so they form their own pack. And that way, release them as a pack. That way they have, better chance of surviving because there's more strength in numbers, as well as, fighting off other coyotes that might want to disrupt them or, do bad things to them. And so once they're older, older juveniles, which is usually sometime in October, then we release them as a pack.
He is so dedicated. And I don't know if you noticed, but if you see him go from the hospital or up the stairs or over to the room, he's running. He's always running, and which is why I guess he stays in shape. But he'll be here 14 hours a day. And he recently said if he won the lottery, he would still work here. That's how much he loves what he does.
It isn't the money or anything for being here. I mean, I don't really get paid very much over here. It's more what I want to do. I've sort of I dedicated my life to doing this. So the sea lions, we usually didn't take sea lions before. We just started taking this year because of the UME that's going on and all the other facilities were at capacity. And so before we started getting the elephant seals in, we said, yeah, we'll take sea lions until we start getting the elephant seals in, and then we'll transition them out. So we only took them in the beginning of the season. And what we would do is, they're so malnourished that what we do is first we have to hydrate them. So that takes a day or two to do that. And then we start them on this really elemental diet, which is something that gets really digested really easily. But they don't really gain weight on that, but it helps them, get some little bit of energy, a little bit of nourishment in them. And then we transition them over to a fish gruel, which is like a fish milkshake, which is just blenderized fish and vitamins and minerals and things like that. And then once they're on that, then we start to get them to eat fish again. So it's a time-consuming process that takes about maybe 10 to 14 days before they're fully eating fish again. And then once they're eating fish, we just need to get them to a good body condition where they can get released. And so we've been trying to release them at about 25 kgs, which is a little over 50 pounds. So we have to make sure that they're in good health and that they're swimming well, they're eating well, and so they're in our deep pool for at least a week to show that they can, act and eat like a regular sea lion and not get outcompeted by their pen mates. And so when they're ready to go, we just box them up and we just take them back to one of the beaches that, where they came from.
Put on a lot of weight.
They did in the last week or so.
it's very rewarding, especially the ones that you didn't think they're going to make. I mean, you're putting them back out in an area where there isn't too much fish, but we're giving them a second chance. We're putting them in better body condition, so maybe they can make it through this.